Good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay speaking to you live at this moment from ABC headquarters just outside the Olympic Village in Munich, West Germany. The peace of what have been called the Serene Olympics was shattered just before dawn this morning, about 5 o'clock, when Arab terrorists armed with submachine guns, faces blackened, a couple of them disguised as guards or as trash men in the Olympic Village, climbed the fence, went to the headquarters of the Israeli team, and immediately killed one man, Moshe Weinberg, a coach, 2 shots in the head, 1 in the stomach. They've been holding 14 others hostage since then, and the latest report is that 1 more has been killed.
Like all of us, we kind of sometimes remember where we were when Kennedy was assassinated, and in the case of the 1972 Summer Olympics, with the kidnapping and then murder of the Israeli team, members of the Israeli team, I certainly remember exactly where I was, the house I was living in, the television that I was watching it on, and how I was watching, like everybody else, wide world of sports when this incident took place, and just watched TV until its tragic conclusion.
The historical facts are that on September 5th in 1972, a group of Palestinian terrorists, or Fedayeen, went into the Olympics Village in Munich and took Israeli athletes hostage. And then over the course of a long day, during which the Germans tried with a kind of remarkable degree of ineptitude to negotiate the release of the hostages, and Golda Meir's government in Israel announced that it was going to stick to Israel's policy of complete non-negotiation with terrorism. The situation deteriorated. The Fedayeen, they were originally asking for the release of 200 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons, but eventually they wanted to just get away with the hostages. And there's some debate that possibly they intended to let everyone go. There was a terrible firefight on the runway at Fürstenfeldbruck, which is a military airport outside of Munich, and during the course of the firefight, all the athletes were killed, and most of the Fedayeen 3 were captured.
I was 25 and I've somehow finished my studies. I was at the theater then, started being at the theater, and West Germany at least was something which was quite, I wouldn't say it was in order, but with the student movement, there were a sort of uprising, but that was an uprising which was a sort of necessity. I would call it even a sort of becoming a self-awareness of Germany through his new generation. And there was a revolt against the Nazi past, and the first time they really could speak about the past. And Munich was an event that came from the outside, like a meteorite. It fell into that country. We were suddenly aware that all this theater of peaceful Olympic Games was a stage for a dark play and a horrible play.
I was 21 at the time. Living in Australia, and it's an event that took on a lot of symbolic power because it was a major thing for the Israeli athletes team to be back in Germany. And at that stage, it's only 27 years since the end of the war. And for the outcome of that event to be so devastating, I think it resonated across the planet.
In '72, I was in the army. I was in an elite unit of the Israeli army. I was a team commander in an ambush on the Jordanian border. I listened to the event through the communication. I could turn the button and hear the radio. And I remember it very well because when it happened, I got so mad. I took the guy off the machine gun. I said myself, I said, tonight I want to kill. It was the only night in my life that I really wanted to kill. Nothing happened, nobody came. But I spent all night, I sat on the machine guns myself.
They gave a deadline first of noon, then they said 1 o'clock, then they said 5 o'clock, then they changed it back to 3, and finally to 5.
I vividly remember the events at Munich. I was in my first year of college, and when this event began to unfold, I think the most shocking thing was when there was this dilemma as to whether or not the games should go on or whether they should be stopped. And I think because no one had experienced something like this unfolding on television, there was a lot of reluctance about what exactly to do. And that's, I think, what I remember almost more than anything.
That outrageous idea to continue the games, that was outrageous to me, because of the sheer bloodshed that happened and had happened before the eyes of the world, on the television eyes and the eyes of the whole world, to go on, say, as if nothing had happened. Just let go on with the games.
The Munich Olympics massacre was enormously successful for the Palestinians. It made people frightened of them and made people think of them as being, sort of bad and ruthless and bloodthirsty, but it also made people think about Palestinians for the first time. This is the world's largest refugee population. They've been living in refugee camps and in really desperate circumstances, and the world for the first time really started to see this as an ongoing problem that needed to be resolved.
When I lived in refugee camp, you have nothing. Really, there is nothing. I mean, even water is really hard to get. Some people take shower with salt water from the sea. Food is also a problem. But I don't know, you grew up with the stories your grandfather and your parents tell you about how it was when they were living in Palestine, and how that they have a huge house and they have land and they had a decent life. So I understand him. But you can't change it like this. I mean, and you can't get back Palestine when you do something like this. Nobody will support you. Violence causes more violence, so this is not the way.
After the ceremony, the surviving team saw the coffins of their fallen comrades.
In Israel,
loaded onto an airplane
this event was a total trauma. It was a national trauma. It was the kind of event that was searing in its impact and required Israel to respond, because not to respond was to send the message that the Israelis were in doubt about their own future. We doubt whether we can survive. We're not prepared to take you on. So it was necessary to understand the psychology of the Israelis, which was, we're rejected by these people. We're rejected in the region by these people. This is proof that they're determined to ensure that they'll destroy us, and maybe to know that we're not going away. We're going to be here. And if they think they can impose this on us, we will impose a price on them that's worse.
Ambushed and slaughtered again. Tell me what law protects people like these. Today I'm hearing with new ears